Welcome to the Hope Sports Podcast, where we chat each week with athletes about purpose. I'm your host, Olympic gold medalist Laura Wilkinson. I'm so excited for today's guest, not just because she's a personal friend of mine, but because there is no limit or barrier that can contain this woman. And I am constantly inspired by her amazing feats. Mariel Zagunis is the most decorated fencer in American history. But her history-making path wasn't without struggles, disappointments, and defeats. She shares about her mindset after not qualifying for the Olympic Games, how she learned to find confidence in her training, and how life as a mom has changed her perspective. Now listen up, because this interview is packed full of wisdom. Welcome, Mariel Zagunis, to the Hope Sports Podcast. I'm so excited that you're here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you, Laura.
Now, I have been blessed and so lucky to know you for a number of years now, but for our audience who might not be as familiar with you, can you give us a little bit of background about how you got started in fencing?
Sure. Yeah, it's a very obscure sport. Not a lot of people fence or really know what fencing is all about. I have to say in recent years, it's gotten more popular, which is really cool. So when I tell people that I fence now, they actually know that it's a sport, an Olympic sport, rather than before when they'd be like, what's that? And so I started fencing now almost, 24 years ago almost.
Wow.
And I started because my older brother, when we were kids, he wanted to sword fight. And so my mom needed to find an outlet for that. And so she found an after school fencing program just at a very, very small club. And so I was, the younger sibling, just sitting there on the sidelines watching him have so much fun hitting people with swords. And I thought it looked like fun. So that's how we kind of all got started in the random sport of fencing.
Oh, that's great. Now, your parents were both Olympians, Olympic rowers in the 76 games in Montreal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how they met, actually. They both made the team.
Oh, that's so cool. So was there ever like a push for you and your brothers to be rowers too?
So not really. I think that both my parents being Olympians gave us as kids a sense of what the Olympics were from a very young age, probably more so than, I don't know, your average kid. Mm-hmm. I remember looking at their Olympic memorabilia books and like all their pictures and hearing their stories and just being like, wow, that's so cool. Like, I want to be that when I grow up, and it was just kind of this concept that was obtainable. I think that some people, maybe when they look at trying to aspire to be an Olympian or make an Olympic team or even win a gold medal, it seems so far out of reach, and it seems so I don't even know where to begin. But because both of my parents were Olympians, it kind of seemed like, oh yeah, if, that's what they did, so I want to do that. Sure, why not? And so as far as rowing, they never really pushed my brothers and me to try it, but we did have a ergometer in our house growing up because my parents still used it for exercise. And so they got us on that a few times. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. Like I remember I was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something like that. And I was like, I feel like I'm going to die. Like, I don't even know how much, like how many meters or whatever I did on it. But I was just like, nope, not for me. It did not seem like fun at all.
Well, that's one of those rowing machines, right? That you can just work out on. Well, yeah, that's tough. That's a tough workout right there.
Oh my God. Yeah. For anybody. And so then, I was like, nope, this doesn't seem like fun. So, and luckily they didn't, push us one way or another. They were very supportive in whatever we wanted to do. And luckily we found fencing instead of rowing. So we created our own path.
Well, so I know you said it kind of made it seem normal for you. Like, this is totally an achievable thing that I can do. Are there other ways that having Olympian parents has kind of helped you throughout your career and even just life in general, you think?
Oh my gosh, totally. Even if you're on a clear path towards the Olympics and you know what it takes and you want to make those sacrifices and you are willing to give it everything you have, there are, as you know, always going to be ups and downs and obstacles to overcome and failures that you have to pick yourself up from. And I think having parents who went through all of that in order to make a team and made the sacrifices that needed to be made and definitely went through their own struggles, for sure helped me and continues to help me to this day, like through my journey and through each Olympic Games, each Olympic cycle, because everyone has been so different that there's always something that I'm coming to my parents with and needing their help on or seeking their advice for. And it just, they've been so supportive and understanding. And especially now being a grown woman with my own child, it's like, wow, they made so many sacrifices to help me achieve these goals and these dreams. And I can never thank them enough, like throughout the rest of my life, for doing what they did to help me get to the level that I got to.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, was there any part of it that was maybe more difficult? Like, was there any pressure on you or any, kind of stress on that angle, or were they always just supportive?
They were supportive. I don't know, again, looking back, it's, hindsight. And I'm sure you have this too, because we, have similar kind of experiences as far as getting to the top, which is the Olympic gold medal. We didn't just make Olympic teams, you and I, we won the Olympic gold medal, which is just a completely different echelon than even just making it on an Olympic team. Both are great achievements, but, of course the gold medal is what most of us are there for. And so there wasn't too much pressure, once I was starting to do well and stuff, but I definitely, looking back again, my parents instilled in me an incredible work ethic. And I think that there was definitely some pressure to be like, well, you're not going to go to your friend's birthday party this weekend. You're going to go to a fencing competition and things like that, where, I definitely, like, in the moment hated it, because when you're, 11, 12, 13 years old, you want to be involved and have that social life and all that stuff. But I think they pushed me in all the right ways. And I'm thankful that they did, obviously, because now that, I'm grown and have been doing this for so long, and I'm on my own, as far as, like, my mom's not going to tell me that I need to go to practice. Like, I do it on my own now, because I think they instilled in me a really rigorous kind of work ethic mentality. I need to do this. I need to work hard. I need to sacrifice, certain aspects of my life in order to be successful. And I, whether or not people would agree with that, it obviously resulted in my Olympic teams and my Olympic medals that I have. So, of course, it obviously worked in some respect. So
that's cool. Parenting is a hard sport, I would say, in itself.
Oh my gosh,
kudos
seriously.
to your parents for doing a good job.
Well, you get another gold medal in that. Geez, with all that you have going on, my goodness. I have one, and I don't even know how I make it to the gym half the time these days. And you have 4, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Well, you just start juggling at some point, so one's always in the air at least.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, man.
Okay, well, back to what we were talking about. So the women's saber event, it was being contested for the very first time at the 2004 Summer Games. But you actually didn't initially qualify. Nigeria decided not to send their qualified fencer to the Olympic Games. And since you were the next highest seeded fencer in the world, you got selected to go and represent the USA. And you didn't just represent, like we mentioned, you won America's first gold medal in fencing in 100 years. Please take us through that whole process, because it's crazy on all fronts.
Yeah, it was a definite underdog story, to say the least. Not making the team initially was, of course, very heartbreaking. And the way that fencing, the qualification goes for fencing, the cutoff for us at that point was the end of March in 2004. So I had this whole couple months of limbo where I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this alternate spot. I don't know, if my dreams are crushed and I'm going to have to wait another 4 years for another chance and all this stuff. And so I think that one of the things that really helped me pull through when the opportunity arose was the fact that I didn't give up. I just, even though there was such a small sliver of hope that I somehow could make the team, I continued to train as if I had already made the team and as if I was going to be there no matter what. And I think that just having that positive mentality, having myself and my whole support system support me and be like, you know what, we're going to just see out the rest of these next couple months. We're going to keep training as if everything, worked out the way we expected it to. And I think that made the big difference, was having that positive attitude and staying in the gym and not, curling up in a ball on a couch and crying every day, which is what I wanted to do when I didn't initially make the team. Because, like I said, that was the end of March and the Olympics weren't until July, August. And so if I had just kind of given up on everything, I 100% would not have been physically or mentally prepared when that opportunity arose. And so I think that having, a very positive support system around me, just really rallying and being like, you know what, we're supposed to be, training these months and getting ready for this Olympics. And so why don't we just see it out and make the most of this time that we have. And that's what I did. And luckily I stuck with it, because then sure enough, a couple months later, I found out that I was going to be the alternate. And like I said, it was nice to not have the pressure on me, and great to feel physically and mentally prepared for that opportunity.
Well, so what was that like? I mean, going in, you prepared, just hoping for that sliver of hope, like you said, and then you got to go in and do it. But then you went and won. I mean, what did you expect that? Were you surprised, or were you thinking the whole time, like, yeah, I've got a shot at this?
I believed in myself, and I believed that I had been training and preparing to win an Olympic gold medal. Like I mentioned before, some people are just as happy working to a personal goal or working to just make the Olympic team, knowing that, I don't know, that their time or their weight or their performance isn't where it needs to be to win a gold medal. But you always have to believe in yourself, and you always have to think that you can achieve the unthinkable. And I went into that Olympics in Athens just fulfilling my own expectations. I didn't care about what other people were saying about, oh, she's just an alternate, or, oh, she, doesn't stand a chance and all this stuff. I wasn't listening to any of that, and nobody was even really paying me any attention. So I showed up just happy to be there. And I was like, I'm glad I have this second opportunity, this second chance, and I'm not going to let it go to waste. And I just fulfilled my own expectations. And I went there to win. Like I knew all along that I was working towards a gold medal, and I just fenced my heart out and kind of proved to myself and to the world that I was meant to be there the whole time.
Oh, that's so good. I love it. I love it. Now, what was the aftermath like? Because now all of a sudden you've made history. I mean, you won this first gold medal for America in 100 years. I mean, what was there a lot of kind of, stuff thrown on you after that, or how was that aftermath?
Not so much. I mean, yes and no. It was definitely a whirlwind, as you know. It's just like that post-Olympic time, that couple months or handful of weeks where it's just like everybody kind of wants a piece of you, and it's it's very overwhelming, especially as a 19-year-old. And so it was a little bit crazy, but of course it ended up dying down. And then the ramp up again to Beijing 4 years later, there was a lot of hype around me and repeating. But to be honest, our U.S. team was very, very strong. So there was a lot of attention on my teammates as well. And so I don't know. I think back to that time. It's already over 10 years ago. It's so crazy to just think that I just put my head down and dug deep. And I was like, not even thinking of it as I need to do this or I need to defend my title or anything like that. I just, again, went out and fenced my heart out and did what I knew how to do the best, which is, perform and fence how I knew how to fence. And it resulted in another gold, which I was extremely satisfied and happy with, of course.
I would imagine so. I mean, not only did you just defend your gold medal, but you also added a bronze medal in the team event. Now, was that, I guess, how is that different having a team to stand on the podium with, even though it was bronze versus an individual gold medal? Like, what is the different feeling, I guess, in that result?
Yeah, it's very different, but it also means a lot because you're winning that medal with your teammates, and so fencing is a very individual sport, and it's also very unique because it's kind of like, I don't know, if you think of it like the track events where one day you're running the 100 meters against your teammates and you want to beat everybody. It doesn't matter if they're your teammates or not, but you're running the 100 meter and you want to win, and so you win, and then a couple of days later, you're running the 4x100 meter with your teammates. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of similar to how it works with fencing. So actually in Beijing, I beat my teammates in the semifinals and the finals. I don't know if you remember that. We swept. So it was like That's literally so cool. Beat them, but we also swept the podium. And then a couple days later, we went and won a bronze medal together. So we were fencing together. So it is a very different mentality when you're going into the team event. But an Olympic medal, a chance at an Olympic medal is really, really awesome. And also, just real quick, not a lot of people realize this, that fencing, when women's saber was added as an Olympic event, they took away or put us, I guess, in place of another event. They didn't give fencing as a sport more medals or more events, so we kind of had to fit in there. So in Athens, we only had the individual women's saber. In Beijing, we had individual and team. Back in London, we only had individual again. And then Rio, we had individual and team. To have that opportunity to have the team event in Beijing, because we didn't have it in Athens, was awesome. Because, obviously 2 Olympic medals are better than 1. So
Definitely. Well, so how was winning the very first one in Athens when you were that underdog to winning and defending that title and then winning the one with your teammates? Like, was one better than the other? Were they both sweet in different ways? Like what? Yeah, explain that to me.
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot. It's sweet in different ways, for sure. It's like choosing between your children, like you can't decide like which one. They're both so different experiences, and to win Athens, being an alternate, first gold medal in 100 years for the U.S., first Olympic medal for women's saber, and then to repeat in Beijing. That's repeat, that's 4 years later. That's defending your title. Yeah, so it's they all this every Olympics, again, as you know, I'm sure, has its own feel, its own memories, its own just everything that goes into it. It's just a different time in your life too. I mean, 4 years is a long time. A lot changes. So they're both very, very special to me in their own way.
That's cool. So, okay, you have 2 Olympic gold medals and a bronze, and you decide to keep on going. And so you're heading into London 2012 for your 3rd Olympic Games. Did that feel like walking into Beijing where you're defending again, even though you said you kind of kept your head down and you just went into your thing? Or was this, like you mentioned, each Olympic Games is different. Was this a totally separate event?
I think it felt different for sure. Again, it's like your 3rd Olympics is of course going to feel very different than your first. And then I had the added kind of attention on me being selected to be flag bearer. And I think that kind of changed the mentality a little bit, because suddenly, I went from 2 Olympics and, making history, which was awesome, but not a lot of people really paid attention to it, to all of a sudden huge spotlight on my story and my history and my performance and this and that. And so I think it definitely changed the way I felt that my performance went in London because of that. I mean, not to say that who knows how it would have gone if I wasn't selected flag bearer, and being flag bearer was an incredible honor. And it was such an amazing experience to lead Team USA into the opening ceremony. It was just absolutely incredible. But it probably ended up being, the highlight for me for the London Games, because I did come away empty-handed.
Yeah, I mean, that is totally, because you didn't even walk in Beijing, did you? Because you were the first day of competition.
Yeah, we were the first day. Mm-hmm.
So did you do opening ceremony in Athens?
I did opening but not closing in Athens.
Okay, so this is your second opening ceremony and your flag bearer. I mean, because it is a huge deal, because all the U.S. athletes come together and they pitch their favorite stories, and the athletes are the ones that vote on it. And so I remember when I heard you got selected, I was so excited, just because I knew you and I knew your story, and I was there with NBC with the media, but I was so stoked that it was you, and watching you just carry that flag. It was really, really cool. But I can imagine the pressure that must come with that. So do you think you just kind of let that in, or I guess, what aspect of was it that you think affected the performance?
Again, it's hard to say, because we don't have a crystal ball to say what would have happened had I not been flag bearer. I was very excited to have been given that honor, for sure. But like I said, with it comes a lot of added attention, a lot of added stress, a lot of extra interviews that maybe, otherwise I wouldn't have been a part of, you know what I mean? Because you want to be part of all the press conferences and all that. But it was, I mean, again, to have that experience, obviously I would have loved to have had my cake and eat it too, as far as having the flag bearer and then come away with another Olympic gold medal. So, but again, who's to say what my performance would have been either way. But it does add a little bit of pressure to you, because suddenly you're being seen by millions of people in the opening ceremony, which again is absolutely incredible to have represented not only my country, but to represent female athletes and to represent the sport of fencing. Was just like, there were so many things that just made me beam with pride as I walked through to the stadium. But it definitely probably was a little bit of a distraction, a little bit of a energy drainer, but who's to say? I mean, I don't know. Maybe
Right.
this would have still gotten the same result, but who knows? But yeah, it was definitely disappointing as far as my performance side of things.
Well, right. And I mean, you didn't totally tank. I mean, you lost in the bronze medal match. So you finished fourth just off the podium, which
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked a few years ago about this, and you said you were a little devastated. I mean, it's obviously a very different experience from winning 2 times in a row, and you have won so many like world titles and everything else. Like, I don't think you're very accustomed to not being on the podium.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So how did you handle that defeat and move on?
Yeah, I would say I was more than a little bit devastated for sure. Like just as you said, when you're so accustomed to, not that it's been easy at all. You
Right.
work, you again, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but like,
Preach, baby.
how hard you have to work to win, and not only win, but win consistently. And I just felt like suddenly the formula didn't work. And that was just a very odd place for me to be in, because I'm like, wait a minute, this is what I've been doing my whole life, and it's working more often than not working. And then suddenly, when it's the biggest, most important competition that I've already know how to win, it's not like, you choke under pressure. I mean, I guess I did choke under pressure, but like, it's not like it was my first experience being in an Olympic final. To have it not play out how I was used to the last 2 Olympics was very, very difficult to wrap my mind around. And so coming back from that, I had to step away from fencing for a little bit. I took quite a long break, and I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this again. But then I was like, I have to do this. Like, I have to come back, and I have to prove to myself that this one loss does not define me. And I have to say to myself that I have another shot at Rio, and I'm just going to take this next quad and really work even harder to make sure that, I can not come away empty handed from my next Olympics.
Mm. So I love that. I absolutely love that. And so what changed exactly in your mindset or in your purpose or in what you were doing? Like, what shifted to make that change to keep going?
I think that it was definitely humbling,
Mm-hmm.
in a way. It's like, I know it sounds like, I don't know, spoiled or something, to be like, oh, well, I'm used to winning the Olympics, like, poor me. So I think that it was humbling in a way that I was like, I'm not going to take anything for granted. It's not that I was before, but it's like every minute that I was in the gym was purposeful, and every competition that I went to I was there to prove a point to myself, and I was there to learn, and I was there to, just make myself a better fencer each and every day, whether it's through practice or competition, and learning through my mistakes, whether that be the mistakes that I made in London or the mistakes that I made in the tournament that I competed in last month. It's like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
constantly wanting to improve upon myself, and just getting smarter and working harder, and working harder in different ways as well, because obviously, like I said, I thought I had the formula, I thought I had the magic touch, but it proved me wrong in London. So I just really wanted to kind of turn things around and figure out another answer to how to get there.
Well, so 4 years later, you are in Rio and you got another bronze with the team, which was
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And
Mm-hmm.
you got ninth individually. So
Mm-hmm.
was that a successful games to you? How do you feel about all of that?
Honestly, I don't think that I would say that was not, I mean, successful as in not coming away empty handed feels so much different than coming away empty handed. So getting a bronze with my team was, yes, that was definitely a success for us. We lost a very, very close match with Russia to make the gold medal round. So that was a big bummer, because we were so close, and they're one of our toughest competitors. And so to almost have beaten them, if we had beat them on the Olympic stage, would have just been incredible. So I wish that we had pulled through just a little bit more, but again, to have a second opportunity after we lost to them to come away with a bronze and solidly come away with a bronze when we beat Italy was great. I think it was, we all had really great performances, and I was happy with the team performance. Individually, not so much. And unfortunately, it just wasn't my day. Like I just didn't feel like it was my day, and that happens. And you're allowed to have that happen. And, it was definitely, again, heartbreaking, because it's not like I was even close to a medal, that time. And so, again, you kind of come away from that and say, what can I learn and how can I change? And if I'm going to go to Tokyo, which that's my next goal. Again, how am I going to make sure that when I'm there, that doesn't happen again, and I can have a clear mind and a strong body and connect the two in the way that it needs to happen.
I love your mindset. I love the way you look at things. Like, it's just it's this just growth perspective. Like, you just want to grow no matter what. And I love that, because you can't be defeated if you're continuing to grow and to change and to learn. And I think that's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, now it's a little different. Like you said, you've got your eyes set on a fifth Olympic Games in Tokyo 2020, which is crazy amazing. But now it's a little different because you're a wife and a mom. Mm-hmm. And so I'm assuming things have changed a little bit, like you mentioned mm-hmm. earlier, with training mm-hmm. and competing. Like, how does that look right now?
I mean, again, I'm sure you can most definitely attest to this. It's crazy how much your life changes when you have a kid, when you are a working mom, but couple that with a professional athlete working mom. I mean, oh my goodness, it is insane. The things that, that my body did when I was pregnant. I just can't even believe that I was pregnant and I had a baby, and she's here and she's amazing. And now I'm a mom, and it just seems so surreal at times. I'm just like, is this really my life? Just because, as a professional athlete for so long, you have to be so selfish in the way mm-hmm. that you train and the way that you compete, and you're traveling all the time, and you're tired, and you don't want to, sometimes you don't want to talk to anybody, and you just want to lay there, and you know how it goes. And so now to have this other part of my life that is now the biggest part of my life, it changes your perspective in such an amazing way, because now, like I said before, when I go to the gym and I'm like, I don't want to waste a minute. Now I literally don't have a minute to waste, because every time that I'm away from her, I need to make it worth it. And I need to hurry up and get that workout in so I can come home and mm-hmm. give her lunch and put her down for a nap. You know what I mean? So it's just it changes your outlook on the way that you train and the way that you time manage. But I'm always up for a challenge, and it's been challenging in a really amazing way. So it's been really great.
I totally agree there, because I think now I must have been really lazy when it was just me and my husband. Now yep. I'm like, I got 30 minutes. I can clean the house, yep. do all these things. I can get a week's worth of stuff done in 30 minutes now.
I know. I know. It's really crazy how different you're like. So, and I think that you're probably going to say this too, but it's some days you're like, I feel like I'm going to implode. I don't even know what I'm doing. I feel so incompetent. I don't even, you just feel so drained. And then other days you get to the end of the day, you're like, I'm Superwoman. I could keep going. I don't even need to go to bed. I could just keep, doing all this stuff. And so it's crazy how just the days wax and wane like that. But it's every day is its new challenge, and it's exciting in its own way.
That's cool. Now, and you already went to several competitions this year, and I mean, I kept trying to message you, and you were in France, or you're over mm-hmm. here. I mean, you're crazy. But so how is it getting back into that groove? Because I know 7 months to the day after you gave birth to Sunday, you won a bronze medal in Moscow, and then mm-hmm. I think the last time you medaled was while you were actually pregnant, weren't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So what was it like getting back into that competition groove after having some time off to have a baby and have this new kind of change of programming?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a change. And I went to actually, those were the two international, or the Moscow one was the Grand Prix last season. And then I went to our national championships in April, and then another national tournament in October, and I won both of those too. So it's it's nice to kind of come back and feel like I can win again, and that I'm on the podium again. And I actually feel surprisingly good. I wasn't, of course, I've never had a baby and had to come back before, so I didn't know how it was going to go, but it's going really well. And I feel fresh and I feel fierce and I feel like I'm just ready to be back where I was, but just like with a new perspective, because I think that break was really, really good for me to kind of feel like recharged and like I want to be there instead of like, again, I'm sure you can attest to this. It's like when you're going day in, day out, competition, this, that, and it kind of gets to be monotonous and it kind of gets to be like you feel a little burnt out. Having such a long break and now coming back and having kind of a new perspective and also new goals, because it's like, well, I'm doing this for my daughter now too. It really kind of recharges you and energizes you to really fight even harder and gives you that extra motivation, which is really cool.
Very cool. Well, you just wrote a beautiful article for Team USA and you were recalling your win from Beijing because it's like your 10-year anniversary this year. And one of the things that you wrote that I loved, you said, when there's a gold medal at stake and history to be made, it can feel either exhilarating, paralyzing, or a combination of any and all emotions in between. So how do you rise above all of that to perform your best when it means the most?
I mean, that's just such a loaded question.
You're welcome.
Sometimes you just have to, you just got to do it. You just really, literally, when you go to the Olympics or a national competition or worlds or what have you, you can't think of it as like, oh my gosh, this is the Olympics, or, oh my gosh, this is going to make or break my career. You just have to show up and know that you've been working so hard and that you've left no stone unturned when it comes to your preparation. And then you can just fall back on that, not fall back, but you can feel calm and you can feel in control, because if you know that you've been preparing and working towards this moment, then you can rely on your muscle memory. You can rely on your mental toughness because you know that you've prepared yourself. And I think that that's something that maybe I obviously can't speak for every situation ever, but when people falter, it's because they suddenly think that they're not prepared or that they haven't put the work in or they have been lying to themselves or, something like that. And so all of that crowds your ability to think clearly and to perform at your best. And so I think that if you really prepare yourself and work hard leading up to the moment, then when you're in the moment, it's like second nature.
Perfect. You also wrote this. When you stand on top of the podium at the Olympics, there's no greater feeling as all of your hard work and years of sacrifice come to fruition. And what the world sees is an accomplished, relieved, ecstatic, and usually weeping athlete. What the world doesn't see is the team behind the athlete, because no one becomes an Olympic champion on their own luck or on their own or by luck. To this day, I'm so incredibly thankful for my support system, coaches, family, friends, and teammates who make this all possible. So tell us a little bit about your support system.
Oh man, my support system has been amazing. It has been the reason for my success. I've been with the same coach, Ed Corfanti, for almost 24 years, so my entire career. So that says a lot about where my success comes from. Obviously, my parents having supported me from the moment I first picked up fencing. I was going to say a saber, but actually I started with foil, but let's not focus on that. First my parents supporting me through everything from the ups and downs to paying for the club fees and the tournament fees and all of my international plane tickets. I mean, I look back now and I'm just like, I cannot believe that the sacrifices that they made in order for me to, from a very young age, get the experience that I needed to accelerate me onto the Olympic path. And, just also even my friends, my very close friends, whether they're my teammates or my friends here at home, it's just to have so much support and to feel so loved no matter what. I think that has made a big difference, because especially just looking back on my experience in Athens, when all of my friends and family obviously knew that was my goal, to make the Olympic team in 2004, but to fall short of that, but to still have the support and the shoulders to cry on when I was going through that tough time just really made all the difference. And I think that throughout my career, just to be surrounded by such positivity just makes such a big difference. And I know you know this too, because if you're just thinking that you're doubting yourself some days, which obviously going through, a performance-based sport, where you are measured on your performance, because it's like win or lose, you need that support system that's going to support you no matter what. And I've had that throughout my entire career. And I think that that's made all the difference, because it's helped me believe in myself when I don't believe in myself. They believe in me when I don't believe in myself. And they're there to help pick me up when I fall short of what it is that I think is ideal, and they'll support me no matter what. And so I think that that's made a big difference in my outlook on my career, and my outlook on myself and my results, and also honestly on my decision to keep going. Because if I didn't have that support system, then I probably would feel more discouraged, and let myself get the best of myself when times get tough. So I think that it's just made a really big difference throughout my career.
Oh, that's great. I mean, you've mentioned over, the past years, you've experienced amazing victories, heartbreaking defeats, days where you felt unstoppable, and days where you felt lost and unsure. What is it that keeps you going? I mean, why a fifth Olympic Games? Like, what keeps you motivated and pushing through all the time?
Well, I think honestly, it's that elusive third gold medal in the individual event that I have fallen short of the past two Olympics, and to have the ability to keep going and to have another opportunity is something that I don't want to pass up, because what we do is time sensitive. As you know, it's like, well, I mean, you're also like super mom, you're coming back to try to go to the Olympics too. So it's like, it is time sensitive in a way for me. And so, I think my motivation comes from wanting to prove to myself that I can do it, because I know I can. And then also, I don't think that Sunday will remember Tokyo. She'll be not even 3, so I don't think she'll remember, but I think it'll be really great to make those memories with her, because we can look back together and be like, this is what mommy did, and when you have a goal, these are the you have to sacrifice certain ways, and there'll be a lot of life lessons, I think, for her, as far as dedication and hard work goes, and I want to set a good example for her. So just being able to set one of these really crazy goals, incredible goals, and work really hard towards it is something that can be really satisfying, despite the obstacles along the way. So yeah, that's pretty much my motivation.
I totally agree. That's great. Now, where can we follow you online to continue to be inspired and encouraged by you, and also cheer you on toward Tokyo?
Oh, yeah,
we're going to.
Yeah. I mean, right on my Instagram, Mariel.Zagunis is my handle. And I try to post. Our season just started, but we don't have another competition until the end of January. But once that starts, then it'll be go, go, go. So there will be a lot of updates and stuff going on in there. So that's where to find me.
Well, thank you so much, and best of luck to you. We will be cheering you on toward Tokyo.
Thank you, Laura.
I'm so thankful to Mariel for sharing with us on today's show. I loved hearing about the pivotal shift in her mindset after missing the podium in London. Instead of focusing so much on proving herself, she was able to instead move into more of a growth mindset, constantly wanting to improve herself. She doesn't let losses define her, but rather they shape her, teach her, and develop her as an athlete and as a person. It's amazing to see that out of that transition not only came further success, but also a richer appreciation of her sport and more confidence in herself. To keep being inspired by Mariel and to follow her adventures toward Tokyo 2020, be sure to check out the show notes where we link to everything that you heard today. Next week, world champion water skier Ryan Dodd will be joining us. So be sure to subscribe to the Hope Sports podcast, because you're not going to want to miss this one. And please leave us a review, because those reviews will help us continue to get these amazing athletes on this show. I'm Laura Wilkinson. Thanks again for listening. This podcast is produced by Evo Terra and Simpler Media. For more information on Hope Sports and to access the complete archives, please visit hopesports.org.